Welcome to the Virgin London Marathon Show, where I'm joined by a very special guest, Steve Way. Steve, it's lovely to have you with us. Now, everyone knows that the London Marathon is full of inspirational stories, but I have to say, yours is just one of the most fascinating and inspirational that I've heard of for a long time. And I have heard a bit about you, but just sitting here chatting with you and learning a bit more kind of leaves me in absolute amazement and total respect. So just briefly, you went in 2007 from 16.5 stone guy, smoker, drinker, not really done any running?
I'd actually attempted a few half marathons a few years before actually, but not having sort of trained for them at all, and I was probably in the sort of 14-15 stone region when I was doing some of those, and I did in fact enjoy doing the running then when I was just entering races and getting myself round these courses, and thought then that I obviously had possibly some talent in running, but didn't really do anything more about it, and then gradually got to the stage where I was sort of turned into a real couch potato, and got to my heaviest, which was towards the end of 2007, where I think it was about September when I realised I had to do something quite serious, because I'd sort of ballooned up. I was just about to hit 16.5 stone, I think.
You are a tall guy, so...
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't, monstrously fat, but I was at the stage where I wasn't that keen when I looked in the mirror and saw what was looking back at me, if you know what I mean.
And the smoking and the drinking.
And I was slightly concerned about my general health, because I had slightly high blood pressure, and obviously being a smoker didn't help, and my diet was particularly bad, and I just knew that it was time to either I had to basically do something about it, because things were going to go downhill from there if I didn't. So
what for you was a real turning point?
I think it was it was basically when I decided I needed to lose weight and also give up the smoking at the same time. It was a case of the running was giving me something to think about rather than the smoking, which is what I was looking for. I was looking for something to almost get addicted to, and I suddenly found that with the running, which was fantastic, and all of a sudden I started to get to the point where going for a run wasn't a chore, and it was actually something that I was looking forward to doing. And I think that was a real turning point. If you can find that in any kind of exercise or fitness, if you can find something that you actually find yourself looking forward to doing, rather than thinking, I've got to go to the gym, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And I think that was a key turning point for me, because as soon as I'm very much an all or nothing kind of a guy, and as soon as I found that running was the sport for me, it was something that I could really get my teeth into, and that was magnified huge amounts by the first time I did a race after I'd been training. So my plan was to train for the London Marathon in 2008, but I'd also entered myself in some local races up until then, and I think the first time I entered myself into a local race having done some training, I think it was a 10k towards Christmas in 2007, and I suddenly found myself reasonably competitive in a local 10k, and I'd be like in the first half of the field, or in the top 20 or something, and I'd suddenly found, hang on a minute, I can actually compete with people. So that was and as soon as I sort of started to get that competitive edge and
little taste.
That was it. Then I was hooked basically. So.
But this isn't sort of like a normal story, because it's not just the fact you've done a few 10Ks. Your PB marathon time is
2:19:37.
2:19:37.
Yes.
Which you achieved from the point where you decided you were going to start running to achieving that time. How long did that take?
That was so started the running in September 2007. And the PB, which is still my PB unfortunately, is from April last year, so 2010. So we're talking, I think it was just over 2.5 years from from when I first started running properly, as in training, to the point, till my 2:19 PB.
I mean,
and then I also had a nice little anniversary, which was almost to the day of on my 3-year anniversary of the day I started running, was the day I represented England in the Toronto Marathon, which was a nice little touch to sort of go from, sitting on my couch 3 years later to representing your country.
Sub 2:20 marathon. It's a GB vest.
England vest, not quite
it's
GB
good enough
vest.
in my book. And all in the space of 3 years. I mean, it is a phenomenal story. Most people, for people to go sub 4 hours, it's incredibly commendable and takes a lot of hard work. So to be achieving times actually that you're talking about very much an elite marathon running time, it's just phenomenal. So have you ever had any of your sort of your physiology measured, VO2 max?
No, I was quite up for having, like, as you say, VO2 max, lactate threshold tests and what have you in a gym, but I've sort of gone off the idea now, because I do like my stats, and I use a lot of heart rate training and stuff, but I decided in the end that I wasn't going to bother, because I didn't really want somebody to tell me what my possible potential was, because I'm still reasonably new at this game, so I'm quite up for just putting in the hard work and just seeing where it gets me, really. So
Steve, what are your long-term plans from now? You're obviously racing on Sunday.
Yes, unfortunately I'm not absolutely certain that I'm in PB shape. I picked up a couple of injuries in late December, early January, which has meant that my run up to London has been a lot shorter than I perhaps hoped. I'm also, I think, possibly showing my inexperience as a marathon runner by I'm still sort of almost coping with the fact that after getting my England vest last year, I took it perhaps a step too far with the enthusiasm and came out of the end of 2010 possibly quite overtrained.
Yeah, you said you had 1 month in June last year where you ran, was it 600?
Yeah, no, well, August was my biggest mileage week, where I put something stupid like I think for a 6-week block I averaged 147 miles a week or something, which turns out is beyond what my body was capable of doing. But I guess when you're that new to the game, I had to find where my limits were, and that was apparently above it. So, and I sort of struggled for the rest of, since coming out of the Toronto Marathon, I've struggled a bit to recover from that, to be honest, and I'm just sort of there now. And I'm feeling quite good that I'm sort of back in a good place, but perhaps not quite on PB shape yet. So I have a backup plan to, if things don't look perfect for Sunday in terms of the PB, I might try and hold back a bit and then attempt Edinburgh in 5 weeks' time, because it looks like we're going to have quite a good British field at Edinburgh this year. So
and use London more as a training run.
And almost use London as a training run, yeah. So I'm not quite sure if I've got the strength mentally to back off. If it's difficult to obviously know whether you're early stages in the race, whether or not you are capable of hitting your target times. But I'm going to try and make that decision, and if I need to back off and use it as a training run and then target Edinburgh instead. But we shall see. But I mean, generally ambitions are just get the best out of myself really in the marathon. I just want to see how fast I can get, and then I haven't really thought much beyond that. Just I'd love to get that P down a few more. I'd hate to think that 2.5 years into my running career was my PB over the marathon, if you see what I mean.
It certainly puts you well up there with the GB guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, last year I was sort of a couple of minutes off the pace that would have got you a place in the European champs and the Commonwealth Games last year. So the guys like the guys that went there, like Ben Moreau, Lee Merrion, they were sort of all in the 2:16 at London last year. So yeah, I mean, it's not a million miles away, no. but it's still.
You could possibly target Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously things like the Olympics with sub 2:12 is pretty much out of my league, because in marathon terms at that level 7 minutes is a huge step.
But it appears to me that there are no rules for you.
Well, Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean, hopefully, if I learn from the lessons that I've picked up in the last sort of year or so, then there's still quite a bit more progression to come. So hopefully, I'm still hoping that there's a good few minutes to come off that PB. So who knows where that will where that gets me. I'll obviously take any opportunity I can get, because if you told me 3 years ago I'd be representing my country at anything, I'd have laughed at you. So whatever putting in maximum effort I can, it will get me. Then I'll certainly take her.
You've got big weekends ahead of you, and we don't want to take up too much of your time because you should have your feet up. But one last question: what advice would you say to someone who's sitting at home now, kind of watching you chat away here about your experience and what you've achieved in the last kind of 3 years, and they're thinking about it, but they're not just quite getting off that sofa?
I would say, I mean, there's so many people out there have the potential to be good quality runners, and so many people just aren't even aware of this sport.
As you weren't aware of what you were doing.
Well, exactly, but people almost they see the charity events, which are all great, but there is a proper sport in there that anybody can try, and you might be a 2:15 marathon runner that just doesn't know it. So, and I think that's one of the problems we've got with the with sort of the British standards these days, is that not enough people try. And you go back to, everybody always harps on about how great everybody was in the 80s and how many sub 220 marathon runners we had in the 80s, and it was almost the norm sort of thing. And that's because people used to give it a go. And I think there's not enough people out there.
Beneath that little bit of body fat.
It's one of the only sports where, pretty much every single person out there has already got the necessary equipment, i.e. a pair of trainers. So get out there and give it a go.
Steve, lovely talking to you. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best of luck for
Thank you very much.
Sunday.
Cheers. Thanks a lot.